my previous lecture on Lakshmi, the consort of Vishnu, I talked about her, how she appeared in ancient Indian texts. Today, I will talk about Lakshmi, how she appears in ancient Indian art. The earliest image of Lakshmi appears in the Shunga Satvahana period in the early Buddhist art at Bharut and Sanjay. One of the female figures at Bharut, standing to front with even feet and holding some flower, looking like Datura, with raised right hand is labeled as Shirima Devata. Her name, Shri, is very futuristic, and the epithet Ma particularly noteworthy, suggesting thereby the mother aspect of the goddess Shri. A female standing on a full-blown lotus and holding a lotus in her raised right hand at Bharut closely approximates to Shri Lakshmi type. In the stupa at Sanchi, datable in the Shunga period, Shri Lakshmi is represented at some places as Kamla Lahachi, standing in the growing lotus plants, carrying blossoming lotus flowers in both the hands. At another place, she holds a lotus in her right hand and perhaps a towel in the left, a developed form of which is met with the golden coins of the Guptas. Here, Shri is shown holding a ribbon or a towel. In the railing at Bodh Gaya, she stands on the pericap of a lotus blossom, having the heels of the feet in touch with each other. She holds a bunch of lotus buds in one hand and that of lotus plumes in the other hand. Shri Lakshmi appears on some terracotta of the Shunga period from Basra. One of the fragments is adorned with a female figure standing on a lotus. She is standing and her hands are placed on the hips. She is lean and consists with wings. Beautiful lotus plants are shown growing around her. Lakshmi seems to be very popular, for it occurs not only on the coins but also constantly on the seals, in the terracotta and in the reliefs at Bharut, Bodh Gaya and Sanjay. At Bharut, one of the quadrant rail medallions shows the goddess seated cross-legged on a lotus with her hands folded under her breasts, while two elephants standing on her either side are pouring water over her head from two inverted jars held in their trunks. Another medallion shows the elaborately dressed goddess standing and being anointed by two elephants with her right hand placed over her left breast in the representations of Lakshmi at Bharat. In one of the representations on the gateways at Sanchi, she is shown standing on a full blossomed lotus with folded hands, while the two elephants give her bath from upturned jars held in their trunks. Her association with a Yaksha Mithuna standing between two jars, the man holding a lotus bud in his right hand. At the base is depiction of the lotus tree of life with two lions and two chairs and tortoise at the bottom. The goddess appears in the stup at Sanchi. Not only the goddess but also the kidney stand on lotus pedestals. The man carrying a lotus bud in the left hand and the women in the right. In the 4th century BC, Lakshmi remained the popular subject. Her most attractive representation appears on the middle section of the front architrave of the southern gateway of the great Sanchi stupa. Here she stands on a fully blossomed lotus with her left hand on the hip and a lotus in her right hand, and is being anointed by two elephants, likewise sported by open lotus flowers. The whole surface of the lintel is covered with leaves, stalks, buds, flowers, among which a couple of Indian geese are set on each side. In the east end of the front of the Nadran gateway, she is represented as holding a lotus bud in her right hand and a towel in the left. In another representation, Lakshmi is seated comfortably on the pericarp of a full-blown lotus with her left leg tucked up on the seat and the right on the pendant and placed on another lotus of similar size. She has a lotus in her right hand raised and the left hand placed on her thighs. She looks also in the west end of the back of the Nadran gateway and tallies to the above mentioned image, with the only difference that her right leg is tucked up on the seat and left one is a pendant. The south end of the front architrave of the eastern gateway, the goddess Lakshmi is shown seated on an expanded lotus sprouting out of an ornamented vase with her right leg folded and placed on the seat and the left leg hanging down. The two elephants standing on lotuses emerging from the same vessel give her a shower bath from either side. The elephants, the pitchers and the water symbolically represent clouds and rains. The inverted vessels are frequently mentioned as rain clouds. The water pouring from the inverted jar indicates life-giving rain. Marshall has ably reconciled the conflicting opinion of Watcher and Kumaraswamy by saying that some of the Maya figures on the balustrades and gateways are identified with the familiar type of Shri Lakshmi, standing or seated on lotus. In the sculptures of Kushana period, Lakshmi as two-armed female figure with a lotus in her left hand and the right hand being held in the Abhay Mudra. She has lotus in both the hands. Two elephants sprinkling water over her head is also a common feature noticed in the Kushana art. In the Kushana period, the goddess is shown standing or seated on a lotus around Mathura. She is two-armed, holding lotus parasol in the left hand, and the right is posed in Abhay Mudra. The left arm is held in akimbo. She wears heavy ornaments to decorate the body. A pair of elephants stands on lotuses performing abhisheka. In certain images, lotus creepers are depicted on either side of Gajalakshmi. A large number of Kushana images of Gajalakshmi are displayed in the Mathura Museum. In several sculptures, Lakshmi is associated with Kubera, the lord of wealth and riches. A small stone slab of early Kushana depicts 4 Brahmical deities in a group: Ardhanarishwar, Vishnu, Gajalakshmi and Kubera. Lakshmi is two-armed, having a canopy over her head and holding a lotus in her left hand, with a pair of elephants surmounting the figure of the goddess. A Kushana statue from Mathura shows Lakshmi holding a lotus, Bhadra holding a fruit, and Hariti a child with Kuber. A colossal slab in the State Museum bears the standing figure of Gajalakshmi in a Sambhanga pose with beautiful body. The two-armed deity has an oval face, a broad nose, and well-developed breasts, and holds a lotus bud or fruit in the right hand and a noose in the left. 2 elephants are performing Abhisheka. It is a fine piece of Gupta art. The panel in the Gupta temple, Devgarh, represents Gajalakshmi seated in Padma Asana, wearing curly hair. Her body is decked with heavy ornaments. She has 2 arms, holding a Padmapatra and Abhay Mudra on either side, and elephant stands on a lotus, the stalk of which issues from the asanas of the goddess. The elephants carry an inverted jar. The panel goes to the 5th, 6th century AD. Another sculpture in the same museum slightly varies. The goddess holds in her 2 hands lotuses on which the elephant stands. A relief in the Mathura Museum and another in the State Museum represent the goddess Lakshmi seated in Lalita Asana between Ganesh on the right and Kuber on the left. She is decked with ornaments and carries lotuses in both the hands. The stalks of these lotuses arise from 2 vases placed below. On these lotuses stand 2 elephants. Kubera holds a cup and mongoose. White Ganesha eats laddu. Another statue in the Mathura Museum depicts the goddess with only Kubera. Kubera is pot-bellied and holds a bowl, and one of its hands is broken. A sculpture from the Varaha temples, Diogad, represents Gaja Lakshmi seated in Uttakuti Asana. She carries a lotus in the left hand and Vardha in the right hand. The elephants are shown in their usual positions. Rajashri and Jaya Lakshmi are shown on either side. A stone sculpture from Iran in MP belonging to the early Gupta period shows the goddess as being anointed by a pair of elephants. A balustrade pillar from Kaushambi depicts Gaja Lakshmi on the pericap of a lotus flower issuing from a vase below along with creepers and flowers extra. The goddess holds the stalk upon which stand the miniature elephants giving a bath to her. A heavy lintel of Chunar sandstone from a medieval shrine now in the collection of Sarnath Museum has 3 projecting niches showing the figure of a 4-armed Gaj Lakshmi seated on a cushion in the central niche. The lower left hand of the goddess has a water pot, while the corresponding right hand displays the gift destroying attitude. Side niches are adorned with the figures of Ganesha, Saraswati, besides the figure of the Navagrahas. She is 4-armed. The goddess in her Gaja Lakshmi form usually occurs at the center of the lintel over the shrine's doorways in Orissa. She sits on a lotus, cross-legged or in Ardha Priyanka pose and being given bath by 2 miniature elephants standing on lotuses with upturned jars held in their trunks, as in the Mukteshwara, the Brahmeshwara and the Parasurameshwara temples of Bhubaneswara, Narasimha temple at Cuttack, temple of Mani Nakeshwara near Bhimapur, and on the doors in Mahabayubhanja and caves at Cuttack. At Khajuraho, Also, figures of Lakshmi are prominent in the center of the lintel over the entrance to the sanctums. In the Lakshmi temple, Lakshmi is shown standing with 4 arms. One hand holds a lotus and the other is in pralambha pose. Other 2 being unintelligible, accompanied by 2 attendants holding the ends of a garland and having lotus leaves hanging over her head as canopies, has near her feet the broken effigy probably of an owl. Another figure is on the sanctum gate of the Vamana temple, shows the goddess with her first hand in the Vardha Mudra and holding a lotus, a discus and a pot of nectar in the remaining hands. Some other images of the goddess having lotus flower in the upper hands are represented either with a ghata or with a villava fruit. A sculpture from Jageshwar shows the goddess seated on Garuda in Lalita Asana, wearing heavy ornaments. She is 4-armed and holds a conch in the front left hand, a disc in the back left, lotus flower in the front right, and gadda in the back right. A big halo surrounds her figure. The colossal bust from Rani Mahal, Jhansi, represents a female figure with prominent breasts, wearing har and girdle. She is seated in Lalita Asana over a cluster of lotus stacks. The lotus seat is supposed to be the asana of Lakshmi. The image may date from circa 10th to 11th century AD. One of the panels from Nalanda represents the figure of Gaja Lakshmi seated cross-legged on a fully expanded lotus. She is holding a lotus stack. A similar lotus stack with flowers and leaves attached to it emerges from near the right thigh of the goddess. She holds a conch shell in her right hand. 2 miniature elephants was standing on the lotus flowers, are emptying the water from the jars. She is decked with ornaments. In Rajasthan, the relief from Ameri, now in Amer Museum, represents the goddess holding lotus flowers in both her hands. The left hand holds the citron fruit which touches the lotus flower. Above, 2 elephants are anointing the goddess. She is accompanied by Ganesh and Kuber. All are in Lalitasana. Riddhi holds a wine jar to pour wine in the kasaka held by the god of wealth. Similar images have also been around from Mathura. In the 11th century, bronze figure of Gaja Lakshmi discovered in Bogra, now in Rajasthan Museum. The goddess is 4-armed, standing in Tribhanga pose. She is holding in 3 of her hands Matalunga, Ankusha and Jampi. She is attended upon by 2 chori-bearing females. A beautiful lotus oriole decorates her head, who is being bathed by 2 elephants with upturned pitchers. Lakshmi is considered to be the wife of Vishnu. There are sculptural representations in which Lakshmi is shown accompanying her husband. In the representation of Anantasaya Vishnu at Deogarh, depicting Vishnu reposing on the seven-hooded cosmic serpent, the goddess is shown sitting at his feet and shampooing his right leg. She appears in a panel projecting in the center above. The doorways of the Deogarh temple, she appears in a panel projecting in the center above the doorway of the Deogarh temple as presiding the right suspended foot of Vishnu, who sits on the tired coils of Ananta. In the Lakshmi Narayan images, the goddess sits on the left thigh of Vishnu. Her right hand encircles his neck, and by her left hand she carries the lotus by its long stem. Her right leg is folded over the thigh of Vishnu and the left one is pendant. This piece from Basra in Dhaka district has been illustrated by Bhatta Shali. The kneeling Garuda is depicted below, sporting the lotus seat on which the pair sit. It is interesting to note a small brass image of Lakshmi Narayan from Mathura is in the collection of Indian Museum. It bears a dated Nagari inscription on its back. She appears in this combination at Khajuraho on the Lakshmana temple and the Parsvanath temple. Shri Lakshmi is found more than often accompanying Vishnu along with the Saraswati, particularly when Vishnu is represented standing. In such sculptures, mostly of the medieval period, Lakshmi and Saraswati, both two-armed, stand on either side of Vishnu. Lakshmi keeping her left hand placed on the waist and the right raised and holding a lotus flower by the stems. The sculptors during the Palla period prepared numerous images of this type. Shri Lakshmi was closely associated with that of Mother Goddess, represented by new terracotta female figures and stone rings from the Indus Valley cities, and by small rings decorated with the figures of a nude goddess from Benares Texila and Rajghat Extra, often related with Y. Makra and other animals. In Rigveda, Shri is an abstraction connoting the view of beauty and welfare. Generally, it suggests the meaning of plenitude and wealth. In the later Rigveda period, the conception of Shri as beauty persists. In the tale of Shri and Prajapati, one can see the transference of the abstract idea of beauty to the visual form of a heavenly body. In the Shri Shukta, the full iconographic conception of Shri Lakshmi emerges. She is associated with lotus and also with elephants anointing her. Shri Lakshmi and Gaja Lakshmi types occur also in the South Indian representations. It is interesting to note that at Ellora, the goddess is attended upon by the figure of the Nagas. Gaja Lakshmi occurs with usual attributes and jewelry at Pittalkhora. Bronze images in large number mostly belong to the 17th and 18th century AD depict her as Sri Lakshmi. In certain cases, she is shown with Vaishnava emblems too. Thank you very much.